All right, so let's move on to tip number 4. Pick the right book for the right season. So most books have their specific audiences. Most books have a target audience in mind, okay? And I feel like books could be understood better with the metaphor of education in general, right? I am an educator. So education in primary, education in high school, then college, and so on, right? And for each phase of the education system, you have different type of educator or teachers or mentors. And it's not that, the primary school teacher doesn't have any value. Actually, primary school teachers have a lot of value, but it just means that their purpose and the field of knowledge that they are trying to teach is very specific to a phase in the development of a human being. So I feel like with books it's the same. It's not like they are bad books per se, okay? As I said about the best-selling books from New York Times. I think that the issue is that there are books that it gets to a point that it's like, this is too much fluff, It's too much fluff. There is no substance. And I feel like sometimes books, they make it longer so that they could sell it, basically. Because if you were to summarize the ideas in one chapter, you would be able to do so. That doesn't apply to this article, Justice After Virtue by Charles Taylor. If you want to read it, you can find it online. But oh my goodness, that should have been a book, that article itself. And Taylor condenses everything too much at times, and so it takes forever to understand at times his thesis, but very powerful, very insightful. So anyways, pick the right book for the right season. So maybe you are already specializing a field, and so reading certain books makes no sense. You should be reading harder books, better books. And so that means that it will take you so much time to finish some of these huge books. Does that make sense? And I'm mostly talking about essays, okay? I'm not referring so much about novels and things like that people read for fun for the most part. I'm not really a novel guy, I get distracted when reading novels. It's really hard for me to pay attention to that. And I'm more interested in essays, always. But anyway, so for example, let me show you. I will describe this to the people who are just listening. So it's like these books, right? You see this? So I'm basically holding the Critique of Pure Reason by Immanuel Kant. This is the Spanish edition, very thick book. The font is very small. Now I'm gonna hold the book by Charles Taylor, Secular Age, Also, really huge book. The font is even smaller, which is terrible because it takes forever to read. And I could pick even another one, which was Sources of the Self and things like that. Well, anyways, if you were to read, for example, Sources of the Self and Secular Age by Charles Taylor, and you actually understand those two books, I feel like you will know more than many PhD level students in philosophy and in many other fields. You will be even more equipped once you understand really well this text. Obviously, understanding Charles Taylor will take you to understand the entire tradition pretty much. But so that's what I'm trying to say, is that it's not so much how many books you are reading, but the type of books you are reading in the right season in your life. Okay, maybe in other aspects you need a more initiation book. You know what I mean? Like languages, you start with an A1, then an A2, then a B1, then a B2, then a C1, then a C2 level of German or something, And so the idea is to know where you are at with regard to that type of field and what you're trying to grow in. So if a book is not moving you in any way or in a deep way, maybe two things. Maybe it is the wrong season for that book. Maybe you are not in the headspace to be reading that type of book, even though it's so good. Or maybe it's the wrong book. Maybe you shouldn't be reading that type of book. If most books you feel like, oh man, I read this, is so fast, so easy, I already know everything. Maybe you should be reading more deeper books that will actually enrich more your life. But let's not be elitist or pedantic about, always reading difficult books. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that, if you already, are very knowledgeable, for example, in the field of productivity, and you know already a lot of things about time management, maybe you shouldn't be reading more about productivity. You should be reading many other things in your life that are bothering you and learning how to grow in those areas,